Hi everyone, it's Grace talking about my upcoming middle grade novel, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon, again. It comes out May 6th, so I would so appreciate it if you pre-ordered. Pre-orders really help authors a lot. As I've said, you can pre-order the book from anywhere, Barnes& Noble, even the Big A, but my two local indie bookstores have special gifts if you pre-order from them. You can get an enamel pin from Porter Square Books or a sticker from High Five Books. So I hope that entices you. And I hope you've been staying on and listening to the quick culture bonus content I've been sharing at the end of the episodes. They are all the different real life inspirations for the book, and I hope they will help you enjoy the book even more.
Hi, I'm Alvina Ling.
And I'm Grace Lynn.
And we're book friends
Forever!
We're childhood friends
who grew up to be
a children's book editor
and an author and illustrator. Yay!
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the How the New Administration is Affecting Publishing episode.
And check out our website, bookfriendsforever.com, and our Instagram handle at bookfriendsforever_podcast. Oh, and check out our new YouTube channel also at bookfriendsforever_podcast. Yay! Hi, everyone. This is actually our third take because I messed up the tech, but this is going to be the best. Last one, best one. Sure. Alvina, how have you been?
I've been okay. I'm actually here for those of you watching on YouTube. I have a different background because I'm in the office because we are recording this on a Monday instead of a Wednesday. So usually I'm at home on Wednesdays when we record, so I'm at home. But this week my parents are actually in town and I'm taking Wednesday off and we're going to gallivant around the city on Wednesday. But they are gallivanting up in Westchester right now. But they came yesterday and yesterday afternoon, and we walked to Prospect Park, and then we had a really delicious dinner together. And then I was going to originally do a Flex 4 this week because they were in town, but it turns out that they had other friends they wanted to see. So I just thought, okay, well, I'll just not waste a Flex 4. For those of you who don't remember what a Flex 4 is or know, is we get now when they called us back to the office 3 days a week, or 2 days first, they said that we could work from home that's why it's called Flex 4, 4 weeks out of the year. So I kind of hoard them until the end of the year and then I use them randomly. So I thought, well, I could use it this week, but I didn't have to. So my parents I took them to Grand Central and helped them find where their train was, and then I came into the office, and so it works out. And then they're going to come back tomorrow after work, so I'll go and pick them up.
Are you going to take them to a show?
We might. I know Wednesday is they do have matinees on Wednesdays, and
yeah. What show do you think? If you do?
Well, we did talk about a bunch of different ones, but I don't know. My parents, they haven't been to a show in a long time. They were talking about how that maybe Phantom of the Opera was the last show, which would have been when I was in college or high school, so in the 90s. Although I think my father forgot that he was visiting me in New York, so it must have been in the early 2000s, and we went to see Fiddler on the Roof. So that was really fun.
What's playing now that they might be interested in?
Yeah, well, I checked, I don't know. My parents are open, and my dad likes good singing, so I feel like if something has good singing, he would be up for it. But then I don't know if that's really what they want to do. My mom said she wants to go to Central Park, which is where they got engaged.
Yeah.
And they got engaged around Easter, which is around now, actually. So
you should get a little plaque put where they were.
That'll be fun. Maybe someday I'll get one of those benches, you know. I mean, well, I have a plaque for Greg up in Central Park. So,
but I wonder, because it's not in a place where they usually put plaques though, right? Because it would be
I mean, it's on a rock. It would be hard. I mean, I guess they could, but it'd be expensive.
You'd have to graffiti something right here.
Yeah. But it's fun to see my parents, of course. They're going to a conference in New Jersey on Thursday, so that's part of why they stopped by to visit us. Um, and then I did a 10-mile run. I'm preparing for my half marathon, so that went
Nice.
well. Um, and Saturday was really, really cold and rainy. I think you got some snow,
Yeah, we got
right?
snow.
Yeah, we just had so it was definitely a indoor day. And Stephen and I played Scrabble, which was fun.
Do you feel ready
We
for
haven't
your half marathon?
I think so, yeah. I ran it really well, like really quickly, like 10 minutes. My goal this year, which I think your goal too, was to get faster. So I used to be like a pretty solidly 10-minute mile runner. And then in the last, I would say 10 years, I got progressively slower and became more of like 11-minute mile. But my goal is to get back to a 10-minute mile. And I ran the 10 miles at a 10-minute mile, basically. It was 10
Wow, good
minute,
for
5
you.
seconds or something.
That's so awesome.
So
I've
I felt
never
good.
run that fast.
Well, no, you did. I think you did faster when we ran together. I remember
Yeah,
you were,
but it was not 10, it was like 10:55,
oh, okay.
I was super
Yes.
proud of. Like I'm super proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, next time you're in town, maybe we can go running
Maybe.
together and run fast. Um, anyway, Grace, how have you been?
I've been doing really well. Um, so many technical difficulties. That's why we're laughing so much. Sorry. Um, this weekend, Hazel had a good friend come and visit. She made this friend in Girl Scout camp last summer, and they just gelled so well. They've kept in touch really close. In fact, it kind of reminds me of me and you. Remember how we used to write letters all the time?
Yeah.
But now they're like emailing, like they like email and like text and all the stuff like all
No.
the time, all day. And so she lives 2 hours away. So we made this arrangement with her parents, and they drove 1 hour, and we drove 1 hour. We met, and we picked her up. She came over, and she stayed the weekend. And Hazel
It
was
reminds
so
me of how some like you hear like divorced couples
yeah
sometimes when they do the trade-off, they'll like drive halfway and do the
yeah
trade-off in a parking lot
yeah. That's what it
somewhere.
was. I was like, we met in the parking lot, and so it was really sweet. And so Hazel on Saturday had a party with all of her friends. I think she kind of wanted to introduce her Girl Scout friend to all her friends here. And she calls it a silly party. And she had all these like really, really intricate, ornate, I guess, I don't know if games is the right thing, but like she had everybody sign these contracts that were like anything you say here will not be shared amongst the masses, like
So like
and
an
then
NDA.
yeah. And then she had um I think the first hour at least, she decided that she was not going to speak at all. She was just going to do everything in charades. And so it was, but even though she was not quiet, they were really loud and they were having a really, really good time. There was like so much laughter. So I was really happy. I mean,
So
I
they all
just kept
got
out of it
so
because
they
I was
all
like,
got
oh,
along.
yeah, they all got along. And I was like, you guys
Yeah.
are bonkers, but I'm so happy that you're bonkers. And so, like, they just were all bonkers together. So that's what happened this weekend. Right now, I'm another thing we did was we are planning for Hazel's trip to Puerto Rico. She leaves on Monday, a week from today.
Oh my
It's
God. Which will
really,
be, I guess by the time this episode airs, she'll be in Puerto Rico.
yeah,
Wait, how long is she going for?
it's only 5 days. So
Okay.
but we've been planning for this for so long. We had a mandatory meeting where every all the Girl Scouts who are going had to go to, but it was really just like a packing meeting. They just showed us everything, how to pack and what to pack, and I was like, wow, this is very intricate, like and very specific. I was thinking like, oh, I would love if somebody did this for me for my tour, be like, this is what you pack. But of course Hazel was completely bored. She was like, blah blah blah. But it was really good. And then it's just it's just wild to think that she's going so soon. We've been like fundraising and working for her to go to Puerto Rico for so long and the troop to go for so long that it's like, oh, it's finally happening.
Yeah.
All those Girl
That's
Scout
exciting.
cookies.
Wait, are you and Alex gonna do anything while she's away?
Originally we were going to, but I feel like well, number one, I've got work to do, and the state of the world. I think he's not feeling
You just
like,
want to travel.
yeah,
Yeah.
travel that much. So we might do some day trips around here just for fun, like see
Yeah.
things. So yeah, so that's I think he's planning to redecorate Hazel's room. She's been wanting
Mm.
to repaint her room purple for a long time, but just hasn't gotten around to it. So I think while she's gone, he's gonna like surprise her and like
Oh, that's fun.
and have her do
What
that.
kind of purple? Like a
He likes like
light or
a
dark?
light purple. She likes like a light
Like
violet.
a, oh,
Lavender. That's her kind of
beautiful.
favorite color right now.
Yay.
And I've been planning for my friend Heidi Stempel's book launch. She has her first novel out that comes out on Tuesday, April 15th, tax day. It's called The Poetry of Car Mechanics. And it's her, like I said, it's her first novel. She's published many picture books. And we were telling her, oh, you should have a party. You should
So
celebrate
is
it.
it middle grade?
It's middle grade, yes.
Okay.
And it's in verse. And she was really like reluctant to have a launch party for her book. And I was like, this is your very first novel. You're never going to have a first novel again. So you should celebrate it, as we talk about all the time. And so because she was so reluctant to celebrate herself, my friend Molly Burnham and I and Lisa Papa Demetrio were like, okay, we will throw you the party. So we're throwing her the party on Tuesday. I hope that goes well. And then the last thing that I was going to talk about was that this past weekend, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon got a really big New York Times review, which I am trying to reframe as a really good thing because I actually did not think it was that good of a review. And I was like, as I said
Yes.
before, this is take 3 or 4 or whatever. So as I said in the other take, you know, being an author, your bad reviews are kind of part of the job, and you kind of know not everybody's going to like your work, not everybody's going to get what you do, and so it's fine. And like and same thing, and so that's how I felt about this review. Was like, okay, it's fine that not everybody gets your work, and it's fine that no one not everybody's going to like it. But to me, it was kind of a bummer that it was like such a public way of not liking it. But then a lot of people have
Yeah.
told me that that's not how they read the review at all. So
No, yeah. I mean, I'll just say that Stephen read the review and he said, "Oh my gosh, what a great review!" And I said, "Oh, Grace didn't think so." He said, "Oh no," like he said, it's just because it's such a great profile of you, and it's such a big review. And I know that maybe that's what makes you feel a little weird, but there was really just one line that was critical out of the whole review, and I just feel like it was such a great. It's a such great promotion and coverage for the book. And if I were, not involved in the book and I were to read that, I don't know if would even notice that criticism. I think I just would be like, wow, it's a new book by Grace Lynn, and it's like a portal fantasy kind of like, I just feel like they framed it in such a wonderful way that I would just want to buy and read the book. So,
yeah, okay. Well, like I said, I'm super, super grateful. I mean, like that it's such a large review. Like that's really cool. It's really cool that they put the art in. Like, yeah, so I'm
yeah.
really grateful for that. I think, I don't know. I think all authors, we always focus on like
No, that is very true.
because
It
I just
is
read it
true.
and I was like, she didn't like it.
Oh, well, I think personally, I do think it's obvious that this person, whoever she is a fan of yours. And, you know, I, I think, yes, I mean, it's so subjective. And I do think that your books, this book, more than Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, for example, like I feel like Where the Mountain Meets the Moon is a pretty straightforward linear story, even though it had like kind of these stories within a story. But this book is much more intricate. So it does require a little more focus and attention from
Yeah.
your readers,
Well, and I think I was
which,
trying to do something with this book that was different, because I really was
yes,
trying to mix like the modern and the ancient
hmm
together. So like so I can
it's
that's why I was saying,
ambitious. It's
yeah,
much more
that's why I can
ambitious of a
see
book.
that's why I was saying I could see why it's not everybody's cup of tea. So
Hmm Yes,
anyway.
yes, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see
Yeah.
how
So
how kids especially think of it.
yeah, I would like to see it. And maybe if even if people took it the way I did, maybe it'll just make them curious to see if they would
Yes,
agree.
I think so. All
All right.
right. So this topic is one that we've been putting off for a while. We first talked about doing it back in January and we kept putting it off, but now it's been about 3 months into this new administration. So we actually have a little more information to go by. Although I think what we've learned is that it's very unpredictable. So who knows? But there was an article in mid-January in Publishers Weekly called What Should Book Publishing Expect Under a Second Trump Administration? And one of the main things they said was that basically said threats to funding for arts and humanities organizations. And that has proven to be
Completely
true.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think that, I mean, I think the main effects are financial, and then like libraries, like the funding to these organizations, which are all intertwined. So like libraries, I think book banning and attacks on DEI overall are the main effects from this. And they're all, I think attacks on or increased book banning leads to financial issues. I think, attacks on libraries leads to financial issues. Tariffs leads to financial issues. So they're all, of course, intertwined.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe we should start with tariffs because that
Okay.
was something that everyone was really worried about.
Hmm.
And I think I know here, I mean, we knew that I think we were pretty sure that children's books would have been exempt
Yeah.
from the tariffs because they had, so I guess the last administration, they did put on a 7.5% tariff. And I can't, I don't know 100% if children's books were exempt from that or not, but I think it was minimal enough that we were able to continue business as usual. But I think when these new tariffs were being put out, everyone was pretty sure that children's books would be exempt, and that has proven to be
I
true.
know
But
it's like the
it's
silver lining for us.
yes, but it seems like all books are exempt according to a recently released federal document. It said that um, many categories that are not subject to tariff include printed matter and nesoi, Nesoi, which translates to not elsewhere specified or included. So other items that are specifically mentioned include printed books and children's picture drawing and coloring books. So it seems like publishing is saved from the tariffs, at least in terms of
Printing in China for
books.
now.
But I think what's not, and I think ch paper was mentioned, but in China, but not necessarily with other tariffs. So I think, for example,
Yes,
Canada produces
Canada.
a lot of paper. So if we're printing in the US, but we're bringing paper to the US to print, it seems like that might still be subject to tariffs. And
Yeah,
to be
that's what
honest,
I
it just
thought
keeps
too. Yeah, it
changing.
keeps changing. Like it was like, oh, the paper is going to be tariffed, and then it's like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. So I'm not really sure, but I think it's still being tariffed now. I
Right.
don't know.
But then
Somebody will chime in and
regardless,
tell us.
yes, but I think regardless is if prices go up for other products, I think consumers are going to have less money to spend in general, and so they might have less money to spend on books. So no matter what, I mean, I think publishing is related to the industry, to the
Yeah.
economy,
Oh, no
and
matter
will
what,
be
it's no good. No good. I mean, like
right. I mean, if everyone's stocks drop,
stockpiles. Yeah.
then they might just feel like, okay, I need to save
Yeah.
more. So,
Yeah, I mean, this is just my personal thing, but like I was thinking about how earlier I was saying I was going to start pivoting and I was like going to make like dish towels. I was going to make, like little
mm,
enamel cups. And I was like, oh, now with the tariffs, like I don't know if it's cost effective. And even if it is cost effective, like who's gonna buy it? Like even myself, like I don't think like unless it's a really good friend, like I'm not going out and buying dish towels and like, little enamel cups, no matter how cute they are. Like I feel like I need to like save my money. So like it's
yeah,
already like taken that like it's kind of we're talking about how like running is a mental game. It's almost like buying is a mental game too. Like we all feel this all of a sudden this panic of like, let's not get anything. So I think it affects everything.
yeah, for sure. Um, and then I guess, I mean, obviously, if libraries are not funded,
Yeah.
then that affects us in a huge way, because our library market is really significant for
Yeah.
children's books, especially. And, I would say Little Brown, that's our bread and butter. And that's the channel that ensures that books don't go out of print or that they stay, in print for a long time, and also that they just get discovered by people. And so I think that's the piece that, we talked about this last week, and so it's still pending, and we still just don't know, but we're
Yeah, but
hoping
there's a
that.
lot of places, like I know a lot of places where that had grants,
Mhm.
museums that had grants that were canceled, and it's just really heartbreaking. It's like it's all these things are getting
They're all interconnected.
yeah.
Right. So I think that's really concerning. And then, early on in the administration, they announced that thing that, oh, that they're no longer that book banning is a hoax and they're longer going to
Yeah.
be investigating them. And so that obviously is not a good thing for
No.
us because, yes.
Um,
So, yes, there's that recent article about I think it was the Naval Academy and how they removed a whole long list of books, mostly I think all by people of color, including I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, and yet they still had two copies of Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler on the library shelves. And another example was Gone is Memorializing the Holocaust by Janet Jacobs, which is an examination of how female victims of the Holocaust have been portrayed and remembered. But then there are other books there's another one called The Camp of the Saints by Jean Raspail, which is still on the shelves, which is a novel about the takeover of the Western world by immigrants from developing countries, which has been embraced by
ugh,
white supremacists and promoted by Stephen Miller. So,
ugh.
um, I think I read that this is the first example of this kind of book banning happening at the college level. I think that most of the book bans in the past have been at the high school level and below. So I think it's just really chilling and these were just books in a library, not even on a curriculum or t being taught. So the fact that an adult is not allowed to choose what books they read is pretty ridiculous and
Yeah, I mean, because
terrifying.
with the high school and the elementary school and the middle school, they use the argument that they're protecting the children, but like now these people that they're taking these books away from are not minors, so it is kind of
Protecting
pointed.
the adults. I
Yeah, they're
don't know.
not really trying to protect anyone. They're just trying to have their version of culture be
Yeah.
nurtured.
I
So
mean, I think what is especially concerning that we've seen so far is that, of course, the battle is being fought in the courts, and there has been a lot of litigation and a lot of, you know, people are suing for, to reverse these executive orders and et cetera. But so far, the administration has not seemed to respect the rulings of these courts, and it's just scary. I mean, everyone talks about how the rule of law is at stake, and I do think that seems to be the case. And if, this country was set up to have three equal, separate, parts of the government, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative, right? Is that those are what the three are called? I passed my exams. Um, and I just feel like the executive branch is just saying, no, we're in charge and we can do
yeah,
whatever we want. And
yeah,
that's really concerning.
it is very concerning. And
So,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I do, we just have been seeing, I've talked about it again, but all these people who are here legally being disappeared because of their speech. And
Yeah.
I feel like it is a slippery slope. If they can do that to someone who is here legally but not a citizen,
Hmm.
what's to stop them from eventually saying, okay, no, well, our citizens too are not allowed to speak up against these
Yeah.
other things.
I mean, it's, in The Handmaid's Tale, they talk about how one of the ways that they were able to make women handmaids was they just passed a law where all second marriages were null. Like so
Yeah.
basically like if you had been divorced divorce and then you remarried, your second marriage doesn't exist. Like you are single. And I just feel like, I mean, I know it's dramatized, but it's just like, what's them to pass a law that says like if your parents are an immigrant, like that doesn't
Yeah.
count anymore.
No, I
Like
mean, I think Trump has already tried to pass an executive order
yeah,
saying that birthright citizenship is
yeah,
not legal.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, uh, everything that the Nazis did in Germany was technically legal. Like they were
yeah,
following the laws. And that's what ICE has been saying is that we're just following the laws, but
yeah,
the laws can be wrong.
yeah,
So I don't know. And but the thing is, they're not following the laws for
yeah,
in a lot of cases. So it's all concerning. Anyway, so this is how, I mean, I think this is just how everyone is affected by this new administration.
yeah,
But I think
yeah,
publishing, obviously, free speech is a huge issue in publishing, and that is what is at stake. And so that is, of course, at the top of our concerns.
yeah,
So of course, we are a business, so I talk about the financial issues at hand, but really, I think free speech and I in 2016, I've talked about this before. There was a wave of publishing in response, I think, to the first Trump administration, where there's a lot of picture books that talk about, all are welcome and, you are incredible and you can do all things. And, I do think more diverse books were being published and more picture books with a great message, I think, for children. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens this administration. I mean, first of all, though, I'll say that our publishing schedules are pretty much fixed for the next year, and for picture books, 2 years. So we've already acquired all the books that we're going to be publishing in the next 2 years. So I think this new administration is not going to change the types of books that are being published in the near future. Um, but I guess might affect what we see on submission and what we're acquiring. Um, and I haven't actually seen a change yet in the nature of submissions. I do wonder, we've talked about whether dystopian or comfort books will be. So I guess in terms of how the
yeah,
administration is affecting publishing, I think that remains to be seen in some cases.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see if I feel like during the first administration, there was this kind of feeling of like, we're going to fight this. And I'm not sure if we have that this time. I think most people are like, whoa, we fought it and it didn't, we lost. Like I think that's kind of the feeling now, like, oh, we really lost, like, so I don't know. Um, you were talking about how the school and library market is Hachette's bread and butter, or Little Brown's bread and butter. And I think it's like that for many, many publishing companies. And I think that's why the thing about this kind of war against DEI is like a really, really uh, big blow to the schools and library market, and it's really hard on the schools. So I guess there was a memo from the U.S. Department of Education that was sent to all 50 states on April 3rd that was requiring states and school systems to certify within 10 days that they are following the government's interpretation of civil rights law or lose Title I support, which basically means get rid of your DEI. That's what they wanted, And and then in January, unrelated but related, in January, a teacher in Idaho was told to take down her "Everyone is welcome here" poster in her classroom. Her name was Sarah. Her name is Sarah Inama. She taught at the Lewis and Clark School in Meridian for 5 years, and she had a poster in her room that said "Everyone is welcome," and it had hands, like waving hands of all different skin tones underneath. And the school district told her she had to take it down because the poster violated the policy of what is allowed to be on display in the classroom, because they felt that it promoted diversity, equity, inclusion / DEI programs, and also uh, it it violated the state law banning critical race theory in classrooms. That's what they said. And so I don't know. I just think that's not only is it bonkers, it's just so scary and so sad, right? Like, um, so
I
what does
mean,
that say? You're
I
not,
know.
everyone is not welcome, you know?
Right. And by everyone, like that is not diversity. I mean, I guess going back to what our guest last week was talking about reframing
Yeah, like unity
diversity as unity. I mean, maybe that is what we need to do is reframe
and rebrand.
because,
Yeah.
right, because, well, so, and I sometimes I worry, for example, is the fact that I, as an Asian woman, am working in publishing, can that be argued as a can it be argued that I was a DEI hire? And if so, like, can I lose
Well,
my job? I
well,
do wonder that sometimes.
as an author, it's completely that. Like
Hmm. Right. The
I
fact that
feel
we're
like
publishing all of these diverse books is that's not
yeah,
DEI. I mean,
but
it is, but
I mean the
we
school
are
visits for me that
right.
have dried up, I feel very strongly that it's
Hmm.
because I am DEI,
Hmm.
you know, like I am
Right.
like they're not going to hire me because it's DEI. In fact, very recently there's an article about author Gracie Kim, who had her book comes out around the same time as mine. It's called Dream Slinger, and she actually is an author for the Rick Riordan series, and so she's a pretty well-known author,
Mhm.
um, like a New York Times bestseller and everything. And so, but her U.S. tour was canceled, and because she said for many different reasons she said in the article, but mainly the biggest reason is because schools just couldn't have her because of who she is, because she does books about Korean folktales and heritage and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I feel so seen. It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like I mean I haven't talked about it much because we don't really know, but I know that Cheryl was having a hard time for a while trying to get me school visits during our tour. And so I feel like I do think it's a thing. So,
Yeah. No, it definitely is a thing.
I mean, and that was the whole reason why I was going to pivot and do enamel cups, which nobody was going to want to buy now. So I feel like everywhere I try to pivot is not working. So I got to keep thinking outside the box, I guess.
Okay. Big sigh. Um, well, we are just going to keep on keeping on. That's all
Yeah.
we can do and do what we can. But definitely, of course, all of these different policies and reactions have affected publishing and our lives in almost every way. So we shall see. But we will fight. We will continue to try to fight, fight back in the ways we can. I think as a company, I mean, Hachette Book Group is a corporation, and I've talked about how our CEO, when asked if he was going to eliminate his DEI efforts, he said, "Not on my watch." And he said there is a business reason. There is a strong business reason, and we have the right to conduct our business in the way that we feel is best for our company and for profits. And so I'm hopeful that the corporate world is able to stand up. I mean, I think a lot of the corporate world has folded, but a lot of it has not. So we will see, I guess, what happens.
Yeah. I do feel like a lot of corporations have folded and just like and
I
lawyer firms and it's
mean, a lot have, but a lot haven't. So, I
yeah.
mean, let's just focus on the ones who haven't.
I guess you hear the ones that have more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I think because I think the ones that haven't are just they're not announcing that we're
yeah.
not, they're just continuing business as usual. So
Yeah, that's true.
Fortune cookies.
all right. So moving on to our fortune cookies segment, we thought we needed to be a little more cheerful and talk
Yes.
about what's
Remember,
making
joy
us
is an
joy.
act of resistance.
Yes. So this is kind of going back to our early episodes of this year where we talk about what's bringing us joy and what's
Yes.
making us happy. Okay, I'm going to ask you to start. What's
Okay,
making
What's
What's
making me
making you
happy?
happy right now?
Okay. What's making me happy right now is like spring is coming. This morning, Alex and I actually went to our local nursery and I bought some pansies and some poppies. And I'm like, it's still a little early, but I'm like so eager to like plant them. And like, it's so like, I just can't wait till spring comes and I can like plant all my flowers. And the builder has finally finished fixing our chicken run. So now it's Bobcat safe. So
Ah,
now we just need
yay,
to wait for chickens to be available for us to purchase again. So then we'll have chickens again. So I'm really
yay,
happy about those things that spring is coming and we're going to have a really uh, beautiful flowers and chickens soon. So that's what's making me
yay.
happy. How about you?
Um, so what's making me happy is American Idol. So Stephen and I were both kind of fans and we would watch it in the past. And, I watched it since the beginning, skipped some seasons here and there. But, I find it such a great, heartwarming show. First of all, it's a reality show, but also it's of singing and I love singing. And um, so this season, we kind of drug our feet about it. Mostly Stephen did because he just felt, and I think he just was reluctant for whatever reason. And then one night he's like, let's just try it. So we watched an episode and he said, oh my gosh. He said, without no offense to Katy Perry, but Katy Perry had been a judge for a long time and she was a little bit hard to watch, I would say. Just I mean, she's an amazing singer and she could be very nurturing, but she'd also be kind of condescending a little bit or patronizing in a way that just, I don't know. So we would
I'm
sometimes
not a
like,
huge fan.
right, we would fast forward sometimes through her commentary. So they replaced her with Carrie Underwood, who is a former American Idol winner herself. And the tone has just changed so much because I think because she had been on the show, she's just able to give such great insight about it, and her personality is very different. There was one moment where she was really waffling about to say yes or no, and she kept on talking to herself, kind of, and going back and forth. And she said, "I'm sorry, I'm just talking too much." And then one of the other judges said to her, you're not talking too much. We knew it was kind of a reference to the previous judge. Um, and I guess going back to politics, I mean, American Idol is one where I think people from all over, and you don't necessarily know their political affiliations, but at the same time, there are a lot of country singers, a lot of people from the South, and you can kind of guess. And in fact, Carrie Underwood, I think, performed at Trump's inauguration. So, but it is still inspirational, I guess, of all these people coming together and around their art. And I have been really finding that heartwarming. And so that's making me happy. And then the other thing I just read this weekend, I read the second book called Max in the Land of Lies by Adam Gitwitz. And
Oh
this is a
yeah, that's been
sequel.
getting so many star reviews. It's
Yeah.
that people
So a
love that book.
sequel to Max in the Land of Spies, I think, or
Mhm.
Max in the House of Spies was the
Uh-huh.
first book, which I loved. I read that last year. And so I've read the second book. It is so brilliant. But I will say it's especially eye-opening because it is about Nazi Germany. And there's so many parallels with today in a depressing way. But also, again, like they made it through and terrible things happened, but things turned around. And I think people did start standing up and speaking for what was right. And so I'm hopeful that we don't have to get that far this time, although I don't know. We have to fight. We have to speak up. But I think that book is just so good, and so that made me really happy this weekend.
Yeah, like, I think I haven't read it, but I've heard so many great things about it.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
recommend
like
it highly.
it's a
Both books.
Newbery buzz book.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it could, but I thought that
Uh,
about the first book, and I think because it's a duology, I think series are harder, I think, to win that big award, but it's definitely worthy. So
yeah, I bet you, I bet you it's got a pretty good
yeah, I
shot.
think this one being the second book and
Yeah, that's what I mean.
concluding
Yeah.
maybe will make it more eligible.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
if they would do it on the first one because they don't know what the second one's going to be,
right.
like, so they'd be
Although
like,
Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor won a Prince Honor. That was the first book of a duology.
oh,
So
that's true.
who
Well, didn't like
knows?
the thief was in this,
The
uh,
Thief. I don't know.
what's, I can't remember the
Anyway,
author. Anyway, it's happened before where
yeah.
that where
Oh,
it's
right.
rare.
Yes, I
It's
know
rare,
what
but
book you're
not
talking about.
often.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm
So
blanking on her name, but I love that book.
Tell me about.
All right, so moving on to the tell me about segment. Grace, tell me about your two board books that are
yes. Okay.
spring-like.
These are my springboard books. So
Yay.
people probably know that I've done these board books for Charles Bridge Publishing. They're part of their storytelling math series. Uh, you know, it's funny that I'm doing books about math because I've always said I'm not very good about math, but that's actually the whole reason why I'm doing these books. When they contacted me, they said, we're wondering if you do books on math. And I was like, math, like counting? And they're like, no, 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 not counting. We want to show how math is in your life every day. You just don't realize it. And then um, I was thinking, oh, that's kind of like diversity. Like diversity is in your life every day. You don't really realize it. So we were talking about how that might be a really good like pairing of diversity and math together. Like I said, I have this the whole series. I've done 8 of these board books, and it's usually is the spring books feature May, which is the Asian character based on my daughter. The summer books feature Olivia, which is a Black girl who is after a friend of my daughter's. And then there's the winter books, which features both of them, my daughter and her friend. And then there's the fall books, which feature my daughter, her friend, and a character named Manny, who is slightly based on Hugo. uh,
Aw,
Slightly, not really, but a little bit based on
yeah.
Hugo, which is uh, our good friend Anna's son. So we those books, but the ones we're going to talk about today are the ones based on my daughter, Up to My Knees and Where Are the Eggs. So Up to My Knees is about measurement. So each one of these books kind of takes a math concept and shows how it's kind of around you and how you can do it. And for the very very young, obviously these are board books. And so this one takes on measurement, and it talks about how a girl plants a flower and she kind of measures how it grows based on her own body. Like, oh, now the sprout's up to my toe, then it's up to my knee, up to my
Mhm.
up to my waist, things like
Waste.
that. And so it's to show how to show measurement. And that's the math concept in that one. And the other one that I do is Where Are the Eggs? And this is based on our chicken Gigi, that one of
Oh,
the many chickens that passed away. Actually, it's kind of sad to see these now because these are all our chickens that passed away. but
they're
those chickens are
memorialized.
memorial. Yes, now they're memorialized. There's poor Melvin. Anyway, our chickens in that it's kind of based in our yard when we let them walk around in our yard, and it's all based on how chickens have laid eggs all over the yard, and May, the main character, has to look for them. And it talks about prepositions. Uh, the egg is underneath the bucket. It's over the wheelbarrow. It's next to the pot. So it's
That's fun.
that's the math skill
Yay.
that you learn there. Is like where placement. So yeah, so they're all really fun. It's kind of fun to take a math concept and figure out how can I explain do it as a slice of life kind of portrait, like to show like this is something that's in your everyday life with these kids. So I'm kind of proud of these little books.
They're great.
Yeah, they're like really sweet, and and it's kind of fun because my daughter and her good friend is based on like they look at these books like we were so little because they don't look
Yeah.
like that anymore at all.
All right. Well, great. And now we'll end as we always do with what we're grateful for. Grace, what are you grateful for?
Okay, so I thought about this beforehand, and I'm really, really grateful for my daughter, Hazel. Hazel really I think she's probably going to be in the arts in one way or the other. She's drawing all the time. We actually have a this weekend we have a kids art market where she's gonna like sell her keychains that she's made from like she's done these elaborate drawings on shrinky dinks and like keychains and like so I think she's going to be in the art world probably or she's going to do something making her art and so because of that when I got this review from the New York Times this weekend which uh, we can argue whether or not it's good. I took it as negative, but even though I took it as negative, I looked at her and I realized, oh, this is an opportunity to model resilience. You know, like not everyone's going to like your work and you're going to have to deal with that. And I have to like show her like it's okay, you know, like, and I'm really grateful for her because I think if I hadn't seen her and realized this is something she's going to face, I might have just wallowed and be like, oh, but then I realized like, no,
Mhm.
it's fine. These things happen. She needs to know that, you know, people aren't going to like your stuff. You just have to keep going. So that was what I'm grateful for.
Okay.
How about you?
I'm grateful that you got a big review in the New York Times because all publicity is good publicity, and this was great publicity. Um, and I'm grateful for my parents because, so actually my parents before they came to New York, they were visiting my uncle, who is my mom's oldest brother, in North Carolina, and he has cancer that they just found, and it was already too advanced, and so he's basically in hospice care. And everyone has been going to visit to say, basically to say goodbye or just to say, and they did a Zoom and we got to, see him. And he's been so cheerful and in
How
good
old is he?
spirits. He's 80, he's 86, I believe. I think he's 1 year younger than my dad, actually.
Mm.
And he's been, to be honest, like in failing health for a while, or
Okay.
just not, like it
Not the
wasn't a
best.
shock, I
Yeah.
guess.
Hmm.
But still, it's, and has lived a very long, full
Yeah.
life. But of course, it's still sad. And he's
Yeah.
the first of my aunt and uncles. Well, aside from I had an uncle who died when he was 31 years old in Taiwan. But the rest of them have been just doing things together and
Yeah,
going
you
on
guys have
cruises
really
together.
good genes.
Yeah. Um, and so, it just made me grateful that I still have my parents and that they're healthy enough and to come visit and, and still walk around the city and I'm just gonna really enjoy them for as long as I can. So
Yay.
grateful
That's
for
good.
that. All right, and that was the How the New Administration is Affecting Publishing episode. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to Alex. Thank you, Alex, at PSC Work Studio for editing this
A
podcast.
lot of editing
Please,
this time.
yes, please rate and review us on Apple Podcast and tell a friend about it.
And tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever or send us a message via Instagram at bookfriendsforever_podcast or via our website, bookfriendsforever.com. And please join our Patreon. The link is in the show notes. We'll do something with it someday.
I'm Alvina Ling. You can find me at Planet Alvina on TikTok and at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads.
And I'm Grace Lynn, and you can find me at Pacey Lynn on Instagram and Threads, and author Grace Lynn on Facebook and Blue Sky.
Have a great week.
And happy reading, and stay tuned for one of my quick culture things after this, I think. If Alex is good at doing that. Bye!
Hi everyone! Welcome to the After Episode Extra. Here I share quick culture, one of the real-life inspirations behind my middle grade novel, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon. Enjoy! If one day you happen to be driving on Shanghai's elevated highway, you might catch a glimpse of something unusual. After speeding past the regular concrete pillars of the expressway, you'll suddenly see one that is very different. Not only is it larger and thicker than the other pillars, but it is gilded in polished metal and decorated with bronze dragons. Yes, in the middle of the expressway, there is a magnificent dragon pillar. Why? Well, each local has a slightly different version, and officially the government denies them all. But the story goes something like this. Back in 1995, when the construction workers were building this part of the highway, they found they could not drill the ground deep enough for the foundation. No matter what tool they used, they failed. It was very mysterious. So mysterious that many suspected spiritual interference. So the construction company secretly consulted some feng shui masters who told them that there was a dragon living in the area. So the company got a monk from the Jade Buddha temple to help them. The monk agreed to perform various ceremonies to induce the dragon to leave, but also insisted that the company install a special pillar adorned with 9 dragons on it, as the spot had been the home of the city's guardian dragon. The construction company did so, and immediately afterwards was able to drill on the spot. Hence, the highway was completed. Now, when I heard the story, I was completely charmed. So charmed that not only is the story in my book, but so is the dragon. Find out what happened to the dragon after the highway construction made him leave his home, or at least what I imagine happened in my book, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon.